Welcome into Command Center Breaking News Special, presented by SeatGeek, the official primary ticketing partner of the Washington Commanders. It is official, Commanders family. The search is over and we have our new head coach. Dan Quinn has been named the next head coach of the Washington Commanders. So right off the top of the show, let's take a look at Dan Quinn's resume. You see it at the top, over 20 years of NFL coaching experience. We are poaching him from the Dallas Cowboys. He spent the last few years there as their defensive coordinator, but he's really known for being the Atlanta Falcons head coach. He took them to a Super Bowl, and then in Seattle, he was part of that Legion of Boom defense. He was a coordinator there. You remember how powerful that defense was. A great resume for Dan Quinn. We should all be extremely excited to have this guy in Washington. Commanders family, Brian Cole Jr. here with Fred Smoot, and we had to bring in Brian Mitchell for this special Command Center episode. We have a lot of news coming in. We have a lot to talk to you about with our new head coach hire. We'll have Logan Paulsen coming in with an Adam Peters exclusive interview. He's out in the Senior Bowl still. He's out in Bogo. And we'll also have London Fletcher, your boyfriend. You miss you a lot. We have London Fletcher joining this show. But before that, we got to get your initial reactions. Fellas, how are you feeling about this breaking news?
Well, I'm happy about it. You know, my whole thing is that it's over. You start seeing coaches get hired, and we hadn't got one. But ultimately, now we have one. I'm happy about that. But ultimately, I'm happy that Adam Peters picked him. Everyone said they were happy with Adam, and he's the guy making that pick. So, yeah, I think we have to give him a chance and let things go on.
B. Mitch, we finally lost the offseason to win the end season.
That's
See,
what I'm
everybody wants the popular guy, but who's the guy that's going to give you a chance to win games? Well, not only did we cripple the Cowboys by taking away their defensive coordinator, he also knows the DNA of that team. He's been in this division. I am happy we got a football guy in the building, and he's defensive-minded. Defense wins football games. Offense sells tickets. I know that hurt your feelings.
It don't hurt my feelings.
So I'm happy with it because I know he's going to come in here, and I love when a coach get a second chance to be great. He was incomplete in Atlanta. He made it to the Super Bowl and did not win. Belichick went through the same thing. Andy Reid went through the same thing. Hopefully it happens here too.
And Fred, you mentioned Dan Quinn is a defensive-minded coach. Now, you've been a defender. You've been in those locker rooms. What are those defenders thinking when your team hires a head coach that's defensive-minded?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Right? If I'm a defensive back, if I'm a Manuel Forbes right now, I cannot wait. I seen what he did with Trayvon Diggs when he got 9 interceptions. I seen what he did with DeRon Bland when he just broke the interception touchdown record. I seen what he did with all of the defense, not just the defensive backs. I am happy if I'm John Allen. I am happy if I'm Jamie Davis. I am happy if I'm Manuel Forbes. I can't wait to see what he's going to do to us and take us to the next level. I think that's a sight to everybody.
But you think about it, those defensive players look at him not just these last 2 years. Go back to Seattle. Okay? The guy knows what he's doing, and I think that gives him a lot of excitement.
Yeah, and B. Mitch, for you, you have talked about patience all offseason and trusting Adam Peters to make this right decision. Why has the patience paid off for us?
Well, I think it paid off because, you know, they went out and they interviewed everybody. I want all people to ultimately understand one thing. They were thinking about, let's go out and get Ben Johnson. Well, Ben Johnson chose he didn't want to leave. That could be many reasons, but we won't need to get into that. But Adam Peters, that I heard from everybody, was the main guy to get. So when you go out there and you get the main guy, the guy who's going to put all this stuff together, the guy who has to worry about the salary cap, the guy who has to worry about who they're going to draft and things of that nature, then you got the right guy. Then he chooses this coach. You upset with that? That makes no sense to me. Ultimately, let's look at it. We've had a lot of people come in here in all season, from players, coaches, everything, and we've been happy as hell. Haven't had a lot of happiness when the season comes. I'm happy to try and now go with some people that know what they're doing about putting something together, and I'm ready to sit back and see what happens. When you go to a movie, do you tell them how to direct the movie?
No.
You know, you might talk to them, but the movie's already done. So sit back and relax and get your popcorn ready and let this movie happen.
And Fred, to B. Mitch's point, 20-plus years of NFL experience. What are your experiences with a Dan Quinn? Because he was around when you was playing.
I would say, first of all, we got to rewind this tape all the way back to when he was at William and Mary with him and Mike Tomlin. Then he coached at VMI. This is a guy that knows the DMV. This is a guy that I played against. I watched him build one of the best. And B. Mitch just brought it up. Defensive backfields of all time with the Legion of Boom. I watched him do it with some first rounders. I watched him do it with some undrafted players in the Richard Sherman, late draft guy. I watched him do so much so long. At one point, want. You cannot say this about him. He's a leader of men. And I thought with us having a young front office, I thought with us having a young ownership group, we needed somebody that's been around and done these things. And I think he fits that bill. And it's not the sexiest coach you could have got. It reminds me of Marty Schottenheimer my rookie year. He was a very defensive-minded coach. He loved his defensive backs. He understood football. We brought a football man in here, and I think that's what people need to look forward to going into the season.
When is sexy getting the football anyway? Yeah. Everybody's worried about who looks the best, who's the youngest, who sounds the best. I care about production. Yeah. And I say it all year. Yeah. I care more about production. I don't care who the player is, what they look like, where they come from, or who the coach is. If you're not getting something out of your players, I have a problem with it. But if you can get stuff out of your player, which he's proven he can do, then I'm happy about that. And I'm willing to sit back, as I said, cross my legs, and get the popcorn.
I think Justin Timberlake brought sexy into football. I think that's what happened.
No, he brought sexy back in wherever he's at, but he wasn't in football.
Well, fellas, I don't know who brought sexy back to football, but maybe it was our guy, Logan Paulsen. He is standing by right now with our general manager, Adam Peters. Logan, take it away.
It's not him.
Hey guys, we're down here in Mobile, Alabama. We're here watching talent, but look who showed up. Adam Peters, guy that needs no introduction, the GM of the Washington Commanders, and it has been a busy couple of days for you. Obviously, Dan Quinn, the new head coaching hire for you guys. I'm a huge Dan Quinn guy. I'm incredibly excited, but what was this first head coaching hire for you? What was that process like that led to you getting your guy?
It was a great process, thorough. It was long,
I bet.
but it needed to be. We had a lot of great candidates, a lot of really good qualified candidates. Had a lot of help. Rick Spielman, Martin Mayhew were along with Bob and Josh, and it was really fun. Got to meet a lot of really good people, and we got a great coach, and I'm so fired up.
I mean, he is a fantastic coach, but you talked about those other guys that had input on this. What is that like having people that have been through processes like these before?
It's great to have somebody. This is my first time doing it, so to have those guys lead me along the way, tell me what I'm screwing up, and and keep me in line. But no, it was really, really fun to have a really good group of guys, not just really smart people, but a good group of people to help me along the way. Yeah, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I bet. And so now, obviously, so much has happened, right? GM, coaching hire. What are the next steps for you guys in the process of making sure this team's ready for the upcoming season?
Yeah, so we hired Dan this morning.
Yep.
I got to watch a little football out here today, which was really cool. Get a little break and watch some guys, which is important. That'll come down the line.
Yep.
Hiring a staff now, and Dan's got a great staff plan, and we're really looking forward to that. And so I'm going to help him out with that, and then get going in free agency. Then back to these guys.
Back to these guys. Yeah, that's an important piece. And you say he's got a good staff plan. Are those guys that you know, or are those guys that have been vouched for by other people? How does that work for people at home who aren't familiar with the process?
Yeah, I think with the staffing, it's a little bit of everything. It's guys that he's worked with, guys around the league that we really have a lot of respect for. We collaborate on all of that and talk about, okay, who else can we get here? And you really just put the best team of guys together, smart, hardworking people that can really help us win. So it's just starting, but it's been fun so far.
Yeah, man. Well, Adam, good luck with the rest of the journey, and thanks
man.
so much for your time, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Adam and Logan, for giving us the insight from out at the Senior Bowl. And you could see Peters is excited, and here is why, because he got his guy. As you can see here, he was the Dallas defensive coordinator, and in 2023, total defense, passing defense, points allowed, he had the Cowboys defense ranked in the top 5 of the NFL in all of these categories. Not to mention, he was also named the AP NFL Assistant Coach of the Year. And speaking of impressive accolades, we have to bring in a very accomplished linebacker who is known to set the tone. And Commanders family, it is my pleasure to welcome in my guy, London Fletcher, into the show. London, how you doing today? We appreciate you taking time with us.
I'm doing great, man. Excited that we finally have our head coach in place. It seems like we've been waiting for forever to see who that head coach would be, and the answer is Dan Quinn.
The answer is Dan Quinn. Now, I got to get your initial thoughts. What were you thinking when you first heard the news?
You know what? When I first heard the news about Dan Quinn, we figured it was going to be either him, Aaron Glenn, or Weaver, Anthony Weaver, the defensive line coach in Baltimore. So you knew it was going to be one of those three guys. And then when it finally became Dan Quinn, I was extremely excited about it because I started to think about what Dan Quinn's defenses have been able to do with him as the head down in Dallas, and then thinking about the success that he had as the head coach in Atlanta. So you look at that from a standpoint, and also speaking with guys that I know. I actually just spoke to a player that I'm close with who plays for the Cowboys, and he raved about Dan Quinn. He said, listen, he does a great job connecting with the players, but what he also does is when the meetings are in place, he holds people accountable. So when he said those two things, he's like, man, he felt like he's going to be a great head coach here in Washington. And when he mentioned those two things to me, I was just like, man, I'm all in on Dan Quinn.
Well, London, one thing we could always count on is you having the inside scoop. So let me ask you, you were a defensive guy. What are the players thinking, those defensive guys in that locker room thinking when they hear their new head coach will be a defensive-minded guy? How excited are they?
Well, you have to be extremely excited as a defensive guy. Most of the time, offensive guy comes in and you just don't know, first and foremost, what style of defense you're going to play, who's going to be the defensive coordinator and things like that. But with Quinn, his style of play, it's going to be a lot of man-to-man coverage, very aggressive defense. You look at what he's been able to do in those 3 seasons, not just in Dallas, but even going all the way back to Seattle when he was a defensive coordinator in Seattle with the Legion of Boom. Those defenses, and that defense is a legendary defense, man, extremely difficult to play against. That his defense beat us in a playoff game in 2012. So I know what he brings to the table, but you have to be excited, especially I think as a guy on the defensive front. You know you're going to be extremely aggressive. It's going to be, we're not going to sit back and just play coverage. They were one of the tops in the league at getting pressure on the quarterback and also bringing a blitz.
And London, you mentioned it, and we talked about in the beginning of the show, his resume. Almost a 30-year career as a coach in the NFL and in the NCAA. What does that experience mean for this team?
Well, you love a coach who's had multiple experiences. And when you mentioned the NCAA piece about it, the league is getting a lot younger. Every year you're drafting young players from college to be able to connect with those guys and reach them on that type of level. And one of the things that you do mainly as a college coach, you have to be a father figure to those guys. You have to be a great teacher. For him to be able to have coached in multiple levels, being in college, being on a professional level, he has to be a great leader. He has to be a great connector. You got to be able to connect with parents when you're going into these people's houses and recruiting their sons and getting them to trust you with their son and their future. So that right there just goes and bodes well when you talked about connecting with players, and especially today's NFL player, which is a lot younger.
And London, we always love your insights, and we appreciate you so much for taking the time to join us. But before I let you go, you missed to set the tone. We need you to talk to the fans right now and tell them why they should be excited about this new head coach hire.
Listen, you got to be excited about the hire of Dan Quinn. Trust the process. Trust Josh Harris and the ownership group. Trust Adam Peters as the general manager, and trust Dan Quinn as the new head coach of your Washington Commanders.
Amen to that. London, you got me excited. I'm ready to play for Dan Quinn. London Fletcher, thank you so much for taking the time with us. We will have you back on the show throughout this offseason, man. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk to you soon, bud.
I appreciate it.
Now, why stop at one legend when we can do two? Let's send it over to Logan Paulsen, who's out at the Senior Bowl with his take on the new hire.
Hey guys, I'm down here at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. We got some exciting news. New head coach. And over there, one of those dots in the blue bleachers over there is Adam Peters. And you see guys coming up to him, giving him daps. Everyone's super excited. Dan Quinn is the head coach of the Washington Commanders. And I'm personally ecstatic about it. And when you look at the coaching candidates, I think it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan worked with Dan Quinn when he was in Atlanta. Kyle Shanahan worked with Adam Peters when he was in San Francisco. They have that pre-existing relationship. Adam, by proxy, knows what kind of guy Dan Quinn is. And I know what kind of guy Dan Quinn is because I spent a ton of time with him when I was in Atlanta. He's a fantastic human being and a guy that understands culture and collaborative working together at the highest levels. I think that's one thing. When I was in San Francisco under Kyle in his first year, he said one of the biggest coaching influences on his career was Dan Quinn, how he understood how to make a culture, make guys enjoy the opportunity to come to work. And that was my experience when I was in Atlanta. I've never had more fun playing football than when I was with Dan Quinn. Understanding how to build relationships with players, understanding how to maximize players, and understanding to be accountable. And I think another thing that I love about Dan Quinn, he's always got a student mindset. He's always looking to grow and improve and finding ways to make himself better. Coach Ulbrich, for the team down here, is a disciple of Dan Quinn. You see that in the practice structure here, right? Everyone's excited. The emotion's high. The energy's good. That's what Dan Quinn brings. This is going to be an exciting opportunity for the organization. For the Commanders, he's the right guy for this opportunity moving forward because he knows how to work with people at a high level. He knows how to surround himself with good people, and he knows how to build a winning culture and a culture that is fun and enjoyable for everybody involved with the football operations for the Washington Commanders.
Logan Paulsen talking about the culture that Dan Quinn brings to a franchise has me excited. And it's not just me that's fired up. Players around the league seem to love this move as well. Our linebacker Jamin Davis, being a military brat like myself, all he needed to do was send that salute tweet. Clearly, Jamin approves. And then a Maryland native, Sean Merriman, tweeted, "This is a great move." Glad you guys approve. I think we all at Command Center do as well. Well, fellas, we got to see those tweets. They're very, very positive tweets. But we know how X is, right?
Yeah.
There's positive, and then there's negative. There's those negative Nancy's out there, right?
A lot of that.
Fellas, why should Commanders families be happy about the decision and our new head coach, Dan Quinn?
Well, I think they should be happy because this is what's happening now. We had a franchise, an organization that was kind of weakened in its foundation.
Yep.
What they're trying to do now is build a straight foundation. And you have to understand, there were 7 coaching availabilities out there, and we were the last one to get it. But let's remember, we're at the beginning stages of what we're trying to get done here. All those other people are already established. They're trying to build that the right way. So when you think about 10, 15 years down the road, you're still having success. So if that happens in the long run, I would like to come back to the day and say, you know what, you were mad. And we tried to get you to follow us, but this thing worked out. I don't want to see like it was in the past where we're all excited today and then we look back like, damn, that didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see this thing work. And if you got to build a great foundation first, that's what they're trying to build, and you should be patient with that.
Well, it's a fan base that we are used to sugar highs. We're used to these quick bursts of success.
Like my peanut brittle.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But at the end of the day, culture building is something different. We've watched Pittsburgh. We watched the Ravens mimic them culturally. When you get a strong culture, that's winning for a long time. And that's what they want back. They want the glory years that y'all brought here, you and your teammates brought
Don't say
here.
glory. Don't say culture. That culture might scare people.
You know what? Culture is real. Like the one
Good
thing,
culture.
good culture is real, and that's what Adam Peters brings. Like, let's be honest, GMs usually outlast coaches. Like, that's just the way it go, and that's what builds the culture here. If you got somebody going to buy the groceries, and he's always going to get you the right players, he's always going to have the right people in the building, he's always going to hold everybody accountable. This changes everything. Like I said, we can't be running for the sugar high that we used to. We got to be ready for this long haul right here, and it takes time for that to happen.
And fellas, a lot of excitement now. We have our head coach, Dan Quinn. Yes, we finally have our head coach. Fellas, I appreciate y'all coming in on your off day for some breaking news. But Commanders family, don't go nowhere. Stay on our socials. Stay on our Commanders YouTube page, because we will be updating you with news immediately. And next week, stay tuned, because we have an exclusive interview with our new head coach, Dan Quinn. Until then, this is Command Center. We will see y'all next week. Commanders family, peace out.
Immediately.